Joining us right now via Zoom chat is Teresa Marsano, a pro-life advocate. We're talking about a conversation that may make you a little bit squeamish, to be honest with you, because I think most Americans probably live somewhat naively about this subject, and that's about our waterways and how safe they are, especially in regards to abortifacient chemicals and human waste, human parts being dumped into our waterways to the tune of 2.5 tons a year. It's a pretty significant issue. Good morning to you, Miss Marsano.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for being on with us. We're very grateful for your time today. One of the fascinating facts about this topic is that the abortion is shifting in America. Obviously, the Dobbs case was a huge shift. But it's shifting from clinic-based abortions to pill-based abortions in a more significant way. Can you give us maybe some stats on that? Where are we at with chemical-based abortions right now?
Okay, so thanks for having me on. This is something we really need to bring to everybody's attention. This has been a long incremental project on the abortion industry's efforts, and that is to shift from the office and offload not only the medical care back onto the woman by herself, but also offload medical waste, because it's very difficult for them to get at Stericycle or others to deal with the babies, because we all know that they should be dignified disposition, we call it. So what's happened is it went from 13% of abortion. It's only supposed to be early, which is first trimester. It's only legal, FDA approved, up to 10 weeks. So about 90% of abortions are in that time frame. And it went from 13%, 35 2 years ago reported. Now last year, we're behind a year. Guttmacher claims 54%. I'm going to say that average is probably closer to 70 plus.
Wow.
And there's so much online, black market, over the border that aren't even reported. California doesn't report, many of the bigger states. So California alone, that the numbers, there's no way to know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know. But let's just say we work with the numbers that Guttmacher reports. So we're looking at 500,000 babies chemically aborted into toilets across America last year.
Last year.
Just last year.
That is horrific.
Yeah. So the number you use, the 2.5 tons, that's just Florida last year.
Florida alone.
Yeah.
What is it on a national scale? I hate to ask the question. What is it on a national scale?
625 tons.
625 tons.
Yeah. So so we have to remember that when there's an abortion, it's not just the baby. It's the other tissues that come out. It's a lot, and and inside of a clinic, they're careful. They have the catch, they have the tubes, they have the containers, and then they rinse, and then they package, and then they put it in red bags. And most states now, babies are interred or cremated. Some states still incinerate. I mean, what could be more sacrilege than treating babies as medical waste is treating them as sewage.
Yeah.
So that was the heartbreak for me, and it was in adoration. Lord, what can I do? And he blessed me with a little image of Our Lady in the sewers picking up the babies. It's kind of like the Pietà. Will you help me? Mm-hmm. And that was back in 2016 when they went to 10 weeks, and we all wear our little 10-week pins, right? And it's the feet of a 10-week-old baby. And there's 10 toes and 10 fingers, and
amen.
The heart's beating, and she has every organ. She just needs to grow, right?
Yeah.
So these aren't blobs of tissue that they say, or clumps of cells, and anyone who is in the business has to kind of turn their brain off, so.
Yeah, I don't want to
the numbers are awful.
That's over 600 tons a year of babies going into the toilet essentially and into our waterways is abhorrent and
Yeah.
disgusting to me. And I don't want to get more graphic, but essentially, just so that we can all understand what we're talking about here, they give the pills to these
Right.
mothers. They take them at home, and if you've seen Abby Johnson's movie, then you can get a sense of what it's like. And they go through this experience without help, without anybody there to like make sure things are okay or normal or whatever. And they go through this experience all on their own, and everything goes into the toilet, including the chemicals. What is the impact on the waterway?
So we have to look at it a couple of different ways. Why do we have medical waste rules? Because it's infectious material. And the standard, they call it universal precaution, is if it can be infectious, we treat it as if it is. So, in a clinic, they have their PPE on and all this, but at home, they're using towels and like you say, the toilet. So along the waterways, we have employees, we have sanitation workers that are exposed because these babies, they clog the grates. And we've seen
Oh,
the number of sewage overflows, even in Orlando, just alone in the last 5 years. I mean, it's just gone up. So what we're trying to do is trace and see where those numbers are coming up, because this is something that I thought had already been tested, had already been looked at because it was happening every day.
mm.
And when I started talking about it, it became evident that no one's been looking at it. So when I look back into their plan back in 2000, before the pill was even approved, their legal eagle said, "You better watch. You're going to be responsible for this because you're prescribing the pill, you're generating." Okay. But what they've done is they've sent the woman home.
Mm.
And with that comes an exploitation of the woman, right? So she's embarrassed to call, she's embarrassed to what's going on. She hasn't expected what's happened to her body and what's happening in her bathroom. So these babies go through, and just logically, without getting graphic on your drive time show, but there's a process of what goes in the toilet where it goes, right?
Mm.
And so even if, let's say, the babies get through the grates and through the sewer systems and through the lift and pump
Oh,
systems and through the bar screens at the headwaters of the treatment plant, then they're processed into the water.
oh my heavens.
They're processed into biosolids. Everything that goes in comes out somewhere. Either comes out as water, as effluent, or it comes out reclaimed into our faucets or our irrigation. And in California, it's toilet to tap.
Hold that thought. Things I thought of over the break. Number one is I used to have communication with a guy who worked in the pharmaceutical business, and he told me the dirty secrets of how back in the day, the pharmaceutical companies would run brothels in third world countries, abort their babies, and then import them for medical research on the down low, which disgusted me. And he also told me how many men who worked on contraceptions at those companies would have breast cancer working on these chemicals. These are dangerous chemicals.
They are. They're actually, out of 61 chemicals, considered hazardous to handle.
And now they're going down our waterways.
Well, yeah, and so we have to remember that these two pills were designed just for this purpose. And the way that they work is by getting into the tissue, into the blood system of the woman, and then into the tissues. So the tissues that come out are laden with the chemicals. You see, so 80% of the chemical, they do a radioactive test on the chemicals when they approve them, and 85% comes out.
Wow.
So what we don't know is the retention in the tissues. But this is the thing, Joe. This was their job to do at the FDA when they approved these drugs and when they approved the protocol. You see, it wasn't just that they approved the drug, they actually approved the combination. That's how they got away with bringing in this second drug that is so poisonous. And, it's the same manufacturers as the Zyklon B gas. And, so we have to realize who who's behind it, right?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
recognize him. His name is Satan. This is so demonic because no one could create this, right? Other than the evil one. No one's going to mock our Lord, the image of these babies or these women. And again, they're so ashamed and embarrassed that they don't speak up. So we're starting a group so that these women can come forward. And like I said, I thought it all been looked at before. I'm just finding out it has not.
Mhm.
So we don't know what the effect is, but what we're doing is trying to get some help legally to say that we need to stop this. The power of the people say, no, you don't have my permission to flush your private medical waste into my public utility,
Mhm.
into my water resources, and the environment alone. In Florida, the upper half of Indian River is black. There's nothing growing there. I
Oh.
traced up, there's 5 tertiary or not tertiary plants, only secondary treatment. They just rinse and pour back into the river.
Wow.
What's in there? What's in there? And so we gotta just get a whole team together, and that's where we're starting. So I can't thank you enough, Joe, for having us on, and Jerome for connecting us, and just doing the best I can to get the word out there. And Students for Life is working on it.
That's great.
We've got some lawyers working on it. Can't talk, they're just building it because we need to get water keepers on this, the environmental groups, but
Yeah,
most of
and
all,
if I can just jump in here, Teresa,
sure, Rudy.
there's a lot of talk from environmentalists. They'll talk about plastics getting into the water. They'll talk about the clothing that you wear, all of the synthetic materials that, once you wash them, they go into the waterway. But there's not a lot of talk about this particular issue. And in fact, when I got the email that you were interested in coming on the show, it was fascinating to me because I'd never heard anything about this. And I'm wondering if if there's any studies or anything that have been done that document the kind of effect that these chemicals have on people who are drinking the water, for example. Just as a quick aside, most people are familiar with Brita filters. Brita filters will filter out certain types of chemicals and compounds and stuff, but they don't filter everything. So somehow or another, we're still receiving any of the chemicals that are being dispensed through this process, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that is true, Rudy. And we don't, we're just getting started. If we look at logically the retention in the tissues, we have some serious problems. This is the deal. When we talk about the plastics, we're talking about nanoparticles.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about human tissue, it's residual tissue.
Oof.
Okay, so it's bigger, by the millions. So, Dr. Pat Castle with Life Runners, he's finally helping us out scientifically. He's a nanochemical engineer specialty. Same thing. He, didn't even think about it. Figured that someone was doing, no, they're catching the babies. No, they're not. Miscarriages we do. And that's what we're going to have to require of these women, of the pill dispensers. If the pill goes out, so does a catch kit. It's got to come back. There has to be accountability for it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have this going on. The chemicals alone, but the tissues. We worry about the tainted vaccines. Well, I have to only drink water that comes from certain areas now, because even the bottling companies, one of the biggest in California, is filling the water bottles out of recharged water from a wastewater plant. So, it's a serious thing. So as Dr. Pat Castle says, it's probably clean, but they're in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about the livestock that are also drinking this water.
But the crops, the biosolids go on our crops. It's fertilizer. You're buying the bag at Lowe's.
Or how about your shower? When you're taking your shower, it's unfiltered.
Oh
my goodness.
God's put us on a mission, man, And so anybody out there that can, help with this, I only have an email now. We've got to set up a website, I suppose, and all that, but it's Gen, Gen 410, Gen 410. at pm.me, because I went through protons because we're going to be sending documents back and forth. But it's really important. There's someone out there that can help with this.
Well, anybody who wants to help can certainly contact us here, and we'll facilitate that connection for sure. Adrian?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
right.
I'm just, this is just absolutely like flabbergasting, this whole situation. I'm just like it's almost unbelievable if it wasn't so consistent with everything that happens with the abortion industry. But the other question, despite the fact that this is just like horrific on a number of levels, is and I know we touched on this a little bit already, the health issues that causes people. We were talking off air a second ago about like, maybe this is why we're having increases in different miscarriages and autism and fertility issues and all these different things. And Rudy mentioned earlier, we talk about microplastics in our water and how that's affecting our health. What are the effects beyond the fact that this is just a grave moral evil? What else do we have to be concerned about?
Yeah, so one of the things we have to worry about here is the fact that they give these women now this take home, the no touch. They give them an extra 4 pills, 8 pills, in case it doesn't work over the weekend, save them a trip back to the pharmacy. What are happening to those pills? Are they just flushing them if they don't use them? Then we have a serious problem, right?
Yeah.
Birth
defects have been a major issue as a result to this contaminated waterways. And as you mentioned before, crops, livestock, all of that. And, someone on our chat box was saying, well, you need spring water. Well, they clean the water at water treatment facilities, and then they dump them into springs and rivers. And then it goes back into the water cycle. So even that wouldn't be a solution around this.
Yeah, spring water isn't spring water. Sorry, guys. I hate to delude you, but you're so right. Most of the sources say spring water from a local source or something,
Right.
But aside from that, we have to realize that we must protect the dignity and the humanity of the child.
Amen.
And I think that's why, Satan always rears his head so that, God can show us the demonic behind it. And that is that he's force feeding us. Deuteronomy says, if you don't stop the evil, you'll be eating I'll feed you the fruit of your own womb.
Oh, yikes.
Quite literally.
So we started. So Genesis 4:10 started because of the sign I saw. I was on a pilgrimage with Our Lady Guadalupe praying at centers, and it was just this flash was look up.
Real quickly, what do you drink? What do you drink, and how do you use for water?
You got about a minute.
For me?
Yes, for you.
What am I doing?
Like what? Like how do you drink water and things like that? Because I couldn't imagine drinking water after knowing these kind of things. Like what do you use?
I have done research on which bottles of water to drink, and also, like you say, the Brita does take tissue out, and so that is safe. It is safe.
What brand of water bottle do you drink from?
Should I say so?
Yes. I mean, please. I don't want to drink from a contaminated source.
Fiji water.
There's one called Pure, and it's through Zephyr, but also the Niagara has moved away from California. It's very interesting because they bottle 30% of the bottle of water, their process. I'm tracing their other sources because that was the one that was actually pulling up out of the wastewater.
Wow.
So, we have to be really careful, and I don't want to say until we know which brands, because I don't want to blackball everybody, but just look at the sources. That's really important. Yeah. And I guess we have to work on that too, right?
We got a lot to work on. Oh, my heavens. Well, we're just about out of time here. So Teresa Marsano has been our guest. What a difficult topic to talk about for sure. Listener, if you want to connect with her, be a help to her in any way, you can always contact us here at the Catholic Drive Time, which is all linked up on our website, grnonline.com/CDT, and we'll facilitate that connection back to Teresa. But, I once had to swim through a water treatment facility during a hurricane rescue thing that I was a part of, and the stuff in the water, disgusting beyond belief. And so we must be very careful about what goes into our water, because a lot of very gross things do. Teresa, God bless you. God love you. Thank you for your time today.
And God bless you too.
All right. We'll have to have her back. But that's going to do it for hour number 1. Pray fast and do penance and watch what you're drinking, I guess, is the answer to that. And get a water filter for your house. Hey, coming up at the top of the next hour, Hector Molina's going to be on. We're going to talk about the Sunday Gospel. Get you ready for Mass this weekend. Until then, or until tomorrow, God bless you. God love you. And we'll see you tomorrow.